Get ready for the world's greatest Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. My name is Fergus. I am your host. I am joined back by my main mucker, Gunnar Hilsey is with us. Trev. Capo Dan is in seat number 3, and demoted to seat number 4 is our Danish Gunnar. Alex, it's a long story. We won't go into it, but yeah, it's a punishment for comments said off air. We are going to talk about the Brentford game. Clearly, we're going to talk about the VAR situation. And obviously, we're going to talk about a huge game that we got coming up on Wednesday night. Alex, seat 4, you'll learn.
Yeah, I've been put in my place. But it's good to be back though. Missed out last week.
You did indeed. We had 2 Dans. How to confuse an Irishman? Jesus, it was really difficult for me. It was just nigh on impossible for me to get it. The amount of times I listened back, and I don't listen back often. The amount of times I went to go Dan, meaning I was asking Capo Dan the question, and Dan, because we had agreed that Dan Mountney would be Dan, answer the question correctly, but it was my incorrect direction of the question. Anyway, Capo Dan, how are you?
Well, I need to mess things up, Fergus. But yeah,
it's not.
It's good to be on. It's nice to have Alex back in the starting lineup after his dropping from the starting lineup last week. But yeah, good to have you back, Alex.
Thank you, Dan.
And in the chat, we've got some people already. We got Tim, who was singing with us outside the North Bank. We've got Alan. We've got Heath. And we got Tony. But you've got something to say to Tony, haven't you?
We have. Obviously, we feel really bad for Tony having these little accidents. So we've come up with a little rhyme to help him enjoy his time. So it goes, he likes to play like Scott Sinclair, Tony, but ended up on gas and air, Tony. He broke his leg, but he'll be back, but he'll still be a lanky chap. Tony Fane, I heard it was a dive. La 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 la.
Are you sure that's meant to be chap?
It might have been toned down for the live viewing.
Yeah. Oh, that's northern. You can't say that word either as well. So listen, I asked you guys for the instant reaction. I said to you guys on Saturday, Sunday, what your thoughts were. Trev mentioned about Eddie, which we'll talk about. Talked about Martinelli. And Alex was, couldn't believe, and this is before the huge hoo-ha about the VAR, couldn't believe that it didn't disallow the goal. Myself and Dan talked about that the atmosphere seemed very flat in the stadium. And then Dan, which again we'll talked about managing teams who want to do a low block. And then Trev had a tweet. Trev's had a few tweets, haven't you? Trev, how are you? I nearly forgot to say hello.
Yeah, I'm very good, Fergus. I'm sorry I missed last week. 2 things I need to say before we get going. Firstly, a very happy birthday today to one of my all-time Arsenal heroes, Liam Brady, someone that gave me great pleasure and could have played for any Arsenal team I've ever seen. Liam Brady would have got in. So happy birthday, Liam. And secondly, and from a personal view, more importantly, I couldn't come on the show last week because my St. Helens family, my in-laws, who I love dearly, Kelly and Phil, my brother and sister-in-law, were getting married on Thursday, and I wanted to be there badly. We struggled a bit, but Donna and myself got there. We had a lovely day, and I just want to say thanks for the invite, Kelly and Phil, and all the very best. Me and Donna love you so much, and take care. Right, I've done my bit now. I need to move on from that because it makes me emotional.
I thought it was a spillage of ice cream in aisle 7. That's what I told everybody on the podcast.
A what?
I thought it was an ice cream spillage in aisle 7. Guys, Dan, first of all, at the stadium, we got in a little bit early. We were able to see the new stadium wraps. I haven't taken any photographs. There's loads online and on Twitter, and everyone's shown them. What were your thoughts of seeing them in the flesh?
I've only seen 2 in the flesh, but that was the Welcome to North London one and the Highbury one. And they were sort of 2 of the favourites that I saw when I first saw them. The Highbury one, I think, looks great. I would near enough say that could go the whole way around the stadium. But for anyone that's seen Highbury and like myself as a kid, for me, Highbury is just it's one of the best looking stadiums I remember. In all the places I've been to, just Highbury, just a class above the rest. So to have that and a bit of history on the new stadium is nice.
So we're looking at the Brentford game. Myself, on the wraps, I quite like them. I think the one over the North Bank I really like. Welcome to North London. I did see a couple of the others. I went round as I left, and I did see I saw the 1886 as we came in. And what I didn't notice, but as you come down Albert Park and you've got the flats in front of you, the 1886 is actually right smack bang in between the flats. So it's quite well done as well. And I think I saw all the flags over the it's probably more around the West Stand. Impressive. 7 out of 10, I think, overall. 7 out of 10. I like the Highbury one, although after seeing the stadium all red before, it seems a little bit strange to see it white. Trev, you're shaking your head.
Oh, you're always so generous with your scores. 7 out of 10, Fergus. 7 out of 10. It's the Arsenal, and even if I didn't like them, I'd give them a 10. So I'm a proper Arsenal fan, not like you.
This is true. Listen, we hosted Brentford. They hadn't lost a game since October. Only Newcastle had got more points at the Emirates this season, and 9 starts in a row for Eddie. It's our best start since our foundation in 1886, with 35 points out of a possible 42. I don't know what that 35 or 42 means. I can't. So, and only 2 clean sheets at home. Forest at 5-0 and Newcastle 0-0. That point, it is our best ever start, but I don't know what the 35-42 is. I can't remember what that was written on the script. So we'll just gloss over that a little bit. So if we look at the lineups,
can you not highlight that bit, please, Fergus? I'd like to go back.
Highlight that bit. Yeah, that's in the Bleeps and Blunders, the end of season compilation. Brentford lined up with Raya, a Danish geezer, AJ, Pinnock, me, Henry, Nogard, Jensen, Janelt, Mumbeo, and Tony. God, that's difficult, their side. I'm glad that I don't support Brentford. We had Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Nketiah. Question. No point asking Trev because I know what he'll say. I'll go to you, Dan. Has Arteta just blindly trusted the same 11? Rightfully. But in this game, was this the game to change it? Trossard has been very strong. Should Trossard have started over Martinelli?
Firstly, I'll give you a 7 out of 10 for the pronunciation of those names, Fergus. That was it's a good score, 7 out of 10. So well done.
It is apparently it's all the rage.
It is. For me, I would have made a couple of changes for this game, not because anyone's done anything wrong, but I think if ever there's going to be a game to change it ahead of what is going to be quite an intense game on Wednesday, I think it would have been this game. I also feel like Trossard has played well since he's come in and actually could have come into the side seamlessly and not really made a drop in the level at all. And same for Tomiyasu at right back. But I can see why he's gone with the same side. This is the side that's got us to the top of the league and given us, out, as you said, our best start for a long, long time. So,
Alec, go on. Finish off, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. So that was it. Yeah, I think I can see why he stuck with the same sort of side and why he didn't make any changes. But yeah, for me, I would have freshened it up with a couple just to keep the squad. You need to keep the squad competitive as well when everyone wanting to get into that 11. And if you know you're not going to be starting every week, then maybe that could get a few of the squad players down. Also, you need to keep them fresh so they can come in and be match fit. But yeah, no real
Alex, would you have swapped anyone around? Would you have made any changes?
Yeah, I think I would have liked to bring in Trossard as well. Now that we have such a strong bench, I think we should use some of them and put them in from the beginning as well. And we saw the instant impact he had as well, Trossard. And yeah, I think it would have added another dynamism to the game. But I think if we look at the next game, City, I wouldn't shake it up. I think that was Brentford. The Brentford game was the game to do it, to bring in some other players in the starting 11.
Trev, Capel made a good point there. If you know that you're in the starting 11, maybe the other players aren't as motivated. Do you think that some of these, it's the wrong phrase to use, but some of these starting 11 may be comfortable are in their position and in their berth in the starting 11?
Well, I would certainly hope not, Ferg. I'd certainly hope not, mate. They're professional footballers, blah, blah, blah. They're paid to do the job, and I can't see that they are, to be honest. I felt very sorry for Martinelli because I think with Zinchenko in the side, I don't think he gets the support down that left or the other options to move the ball that he does with Tierney in the side. So it's a bit awkward there in that position for him. I wasn't upset with the selection. I won't be upset with the selection if it stays the same for Wednesday, to be honest, because Wednesday, we're going to talk about it shortly. So I'll just leave it at that. Wednesday is a completely different game. We won't be up against 11 men behind the ball all night. We'll have some proper defending to do. And I think it'll be a more open and a different game that we could possibly quite likely win. So yeah, I'm not happy with I'm not unhappy with sticking with the same side. Some of the situations that we found ourselves in needed a change, and he brought on Trossard, but when he took Xhaka on, he could only really bring Vieira on, who I don't think is quite up to where we need him to be at the moment. So yeah, I'm not unhappy with starting the same side every week and bringing on these different players.
I suppose if we'd won the game, we'd be saying, why change a winning formula? Dan, did you want to come back in on that?
Yeah, just a question, Trev. Obviously, I know you mentioned Tierney. Do you really feel like Tierney and Martinelli can play in the same side under Arteta's system? Because he seems to like to have his wide men up top hold the width, but the guys at fullback to come inside and help dominate possession. Whereas Kieran Tierney, I don't think is as technical as Zinchenko and can't really come inside as much or as well. And Tierney's strength is overlapping and bombing forward. And to do that, you need someone that will come inside and create space for him. Whereas Martinelli is very, very good at staying out wide and isolating someone one-on-one.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head in that to play the style that Arteta likes, he prefers to play Zinchenko. And you can't argue that. You can't argue with anything that Mikel Arteta does at the moment because people are forgetting we're still clear at the top of the league with a game in hand, So I can't argue with any of that, Dan. The only point I need to stick with is that I don't think Martinelli plays as well when he's in the side with Zinchenko as he does when he's in the side with Tierney. I'm not saying that you should pick Tierney or you should drop Zinchenko. I'm just looking at the way Martinelli performs because I don't think he's been well. You shouldn't really, should we? This is interesting now. Should we really single Martinelli or any of the players out for the Everton and the Brentford game because we seem to be. My mate Terry put it on social media earlier in the week, and he's right. We seem to be just a bit below where we were right across the field. These last couple of games, but I think that is probably more to do with the opposition we're playing than us.
Well, I was going to say, is it also the fact that they're playing so many games and they're not rotating and the lack of depth in the squad? Like Brentford had a game plan, Everton had a game plan, and Brentford's game plan of 5-3-2 clearly worked. It's worked against City, it's worked against Liverpool. They've had wins away there, and they've got a point, whether right or wrongly. They got a point against the Arsenal away as well. So, they sit back, they cause trouble on the counter-attack, and Rico Henry had a very clear chance that Ramsdale saved. Mbeumo, I believe, had a shot. Alex, your thoughts on what Trev had to say and Capo had to say on that?
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I'd like to say, like Brentford, like you said, they've really succeeded in playing this 5-3-2 against all the big teams, and they won away at City. They drew Tottenham. They've taken points off all of the big teams, and you could see like in the game why it worked so well. They're very good at closing down the spaces in the middle and then double teaming on Saka. I heard the interview with the Danish manager after the game, and he said that was the key to closing down us. That was getting hold of Saka, and they did that very well, except for the goal we scored. But like when they do that, when they close down Saka, I think what hasn't gone so well for us the last couple of games is like Martinelli and Nketiah hasn't really capitalized of all of the attention he's getting Saka. Like we need them to step up when they're closing down Saka with 2-3 men. And I feel like they haven't really got the best relation, Nketiah and Martinelli, and I think they look kind of frustrated at each other as well at times in the game. There was especially a situation where Nketiah was on the counter and Martinelli was sort of running through on goal and he didn't pass it to him. And you could see like there was some frustration there, where I feel like Jesus and Martinelli had a better relation and they were really good at changing positions as well, where you can see Martinelli, he's kind of locked on the sideline on the left. So yeah, we need to figure that out for the next couple of games, and especially against the low block teams.
Dan, you were talking about the low block teams like earlier in your instant reactions. How do you think we tackle those sort of teams? Because, okay, I think the City game, which we'll talk about, is probably perfectly timed for us because they'll play football, and if they play football, we play football, and I think we can probably have a better game and a better outcome, hopefully. How do you deal with this low block? They need to look for a plan B, don't they?
I'm not necessarily a plan B. I just think we need to increase the speed of our passing. You know, when you get a team that sits in, we need to move them out, and to do that, you have to move the ball quicker. That's what the top sides do, and that's how Man City have broken down so many teams over the years, is by moving the ball very quickly. And then when you get your creative players on the ball, they create something out of nothing. You know, and we have enough players in the team that I think that can do that. I also think it's an element of teams, one, giving us more respect because we've been very, very good. So teams have now started to say, hang on, we're going to the Arsenal, we need to be on top of our game and we need to be a lot tighter than we would elsewhere. But then also, I feel like we're not yet at the end of our journey. And we've said this, you know, for a while. We've got still a long way to go if we want to be ultimately Champions League winners and Premier League winners. And we've got a bit of development to do. And a lot of the guys in the team are still young guys, still learning. And they need to learn, like Trev said, how to play when they're top of the league.
Listen, go, Trev.
The boys, it's really interesting what both of the boys said there, Ferg. And they're bang on. They're bang in line with my thoughts, right? And I put that comment up there from Terry because I think that if the fullbacks are doubling up on our wingers, like we said they are, then we should be able to move them around in the middle of the park and find some space. And Terry's exactly right. I mean, I don't want to be seen to be going in hard on Eddie, but I think his goals might have flattered to deceive recently. I don't think he moves defenders around anything like Jesus does. And I think that having Jesus in the side gives us the option. Having Jesus in the side, moving the defenders around will automatically drag defenders away from our wingers. You know, our wingers don't need to be out there unmarked. If Martinelli or Saka are one-on-one with a defender instead of one-on-two, if they're one-on-one with a defender, who do you back to get past almost every time? You'll back Martinelli and you back Saka. They're that good. They're that good. And Dan and Alex are exactly right in what they said earlier. It all links into one big picture, you know, and it's lovely to talk about it like this because we're talking about it in a positive way. I think Jesus just moves defenders around a lot more than Eddie does. And I'll leave it at that. We're picking on Eddie, you know, but if we want space, Jesus will create it.
Since we're talking Eddie, I think Eddie's probably in some ways easier to defend against because he's a poacher. He sits in the box and he tries to look for that final ball, whereas Jesus does an awful lot more and gets involved in the game a bit more. I think we talked about it on the phone briefly yesterday, Trev. You just said the work rate of Eddie, whilst he's impressive in and around the penalty spot and in and around the box, it's not the same as Jesus is around the pitch, because if Jesus isn't scoring the goals, he's definitely assisting for the goals as well. Listen, with a 25-minute scare, Ivan Toney, who is only Kane and Haaland have scored more goals in the league than Ivan Toney. He hit the crossbar with this.
Because Toney's in there. Here he is, making a bit of space. That's a clever ball. And Bumo's in there, pulls it back. Toney hits the crossbar. Should have scored.
He should have scored. Honestly, Dan, first half, there could have been 3.
I mean, I don't know about 3. I think they had a couple of chances that they probably should have taken at least one. They had a couple of very good opportunities, but they're a good side at the end of the day. They've only lost, I think it's 4 games in the league. They've lost to us, they've lost to Newcastle. I think they lost to Villa and Fulham as well. But they're a great side. And you forget that this is a side that lost probably one of their main players last year in Christian Eriksen. And they've done a fantastic job this season. And not only have they not lost that many games, they've beaten big teams and beaten them away. You know, not many people go to Man City and win. Not many people, you know, they beat Liverpool. They who's the other team they beat? They beat United, I think.
Yeah, they beat United as well, 3-0.
You know, so this isn't an easy team to play against, especially if you're not at your top level. You know, and I don't think we were bad on Saturday, but I think when you have a 5% drop off, it makes a big difference against teams like Brentford.
Dan, have you seen my notes for tonight? Because every time I look down my notes, you're taking the point just ahead of me, and you're exactly right, mate. It's we didn't underestimate Brentford, I don't think. But Brentford are a damn fine side, and they should have been winning at half time. And if they'd have been winning at half time, you couldn't have argued that it wasn't a deserved lead, could you? We didn't look like we could break them down at all. Second half, we were a bit better, but yeah, you're exactly right, Dan. They're a very, very good side.
Alex, going into half time, we're flat on the pitch. Martinelli really had the only opportunity with a shot over the bar in the 43rd minute. Did it come across on TV that it was like flat and lethargic on and off the pitch?
Yeah, it kind of did. Like I was expecting, obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know how exactly it was, but like how it came across on the television is that it was quite flat, and I was expecting like a better atmosphere because it's such an important. Every game is so important right now, and I feel like the games I've gone to, even though it's been smaller teams, the atmosphere has still been really, really good. But yeah, for some parts of the game, the only thing I could hear was really the drum from the clock end. So I was a bit disappointed in that because I think the team right now really needs the fans and the atmosphere, and that's one of the reasons why we've been so good at the Emirates is the atmosphere. The fans great.
I think we said, Dan, on last week's podcast or the last podcast that the fans had a huge responsibility. Myself and yourself and Tim, who's in the chat, and Hannah and several others. Got in block 5, block 6, as you can hear from my voice. We did give it a go, and we got the place. It was rocking 45 minutes before the game, which normally that's like the United game and Spurs game, but for Brentford it was really rocking. I thought it was going to carry on into the stands. It did. There was plenty of Red Army and the world's greatest team, but there was something there, Chad.
Yeah, well, do you know what it is as well, though, is that in certain games where we've had a good atmosphere... Sorry?
It's just been precious. I'll come to you in a second.
Go on, Dan. Go, Dan. Go.
All right. When we've had the atmosphere going sort of that good before the game, we've also gone into the game and had a good start, and we've scored early. And I think that's also made a big difference on the crowd. The crowd near enough feel like they're waiting for the team to pick them up, as opposed to the fans saying, okay, look, we're going to pick the team up whether they're playing well or not. And I think that is something that is down a bit to nerves, but I think the fans can do more. I don't want to criticise them too much because I think we have been very, very good this year, but I think the fans can do more, especially in the running.
Trev, go on, precious.
From where I was watching it, obviously I watched it on the television. It seemed that the fans got going every time Arsenal looked like playing, looked like getting in the box or had a chance. Then that lifted the fans for a couple of minutes, and then as our players dropped off again, the fans dropped off again. And it's nice if the fans are doing the opposite way around and getting the team going. But if you're watching that, sometimes it's difficult. But with people like Dan in the crowd, I'm sure that we won't be like it for long. Just look at here. Interesting. Heath raises a question for do we look tired? I can only answer that with a question. Have we played any more games than anyone else? So should we be any more tired than anyone else? I don't know what you boys think.
We've played one less than most others, and two in some cases. So in theory, we should be no different. The only thing, as I did say to you a little earlier, was does it point out to having the same starting 11 the majority of the time? Does it point out to the lack of depth in the squad? Yes, we've added Trossard, Kivor, and who's a third one that we added in the window? Jorginho. So, they've only come into the squad now, and we're starting to bond with the rest of the team and get into the tactics and so on. So I think maybe that starting 11 are a little bit leggy. What do you think?
Let me come back at you, Ferg. Let me come back at you, Ferg. I like asking you questions, Ferg. Right, if we're looking a bit leggy and we've brought Jorginho on as an experienced central midfielder just to give us a bit of punch when we need it, and when he took Xhaka off, he brought Vieira on. What I couldn't quite work out the thinking there, to be honest, mate.
No, to be honest, I couldn't understand that, but I did think that Xhaka needed to come off. Xhaka, for the last couple of games, hasn't been the Xhaka that we've seen, a few weeks back. He doesn't seem to be. It could be the lack of Jesus. I seriously think that not having Jesus in that squad and giving us that option, especially against the opposition that we have, has caused us problems. Guys, anything you want to add on to that, or are we going to the second half?
Yeah, just a quick one on the changes, just because I feel like Jorginho has come in to be Partey's backup, and then he's got Vieira's a backup to either Ødegaard or Xhaka. So I don't think you'll see Jorginho come on and play unless it's instead of Partey, to be honest with you. I think that's the main setup there. But I think people are forgetting that we did the hard work in the game against Brentford. We did break them down eventually and we got the goal, and we looked at that point like we were going to maybe go on and get a second or third. But I don't think we've had as much of a drop-off as people think. And if we'd have got a win out of that game, as we will touch on later and probably should have because of certain decisions, I think people would have brushed over it a bit more and moved on a bit.
Okay. Alex?
Yeah, I agree. But going back to your point, I think you're right about saying that Xhaka is missing Jesus, because it's like a lot of the time when Xhaka was doing well in the first half of the season, where he really had his revelation, was like the relation he had with Jesus and Martinelli, where they really combined well for quite a lot of goals. So I really do think he's missing Jesus on that left side with Martinelli.
So we got into the second half. We started a bit sharper. We've gone through the reasons why we feel we were a bit flat in the first half. Pretty much continued. We had a lot of controlling possession, and Brentford basically let us have the ball. And they were just waiting for the counter attack and direct passes to Tony and Mbeumo. Saka comes close about 2 or 3 minutes in with a shot, and then Tony comes close again about 5 or 6 minutes later. Our defence seems a little bit unsettled for the first time this season. Do we think that Gabby and Saliba are being matched physically and have had trouble with the one-to-one duels? Like you look against Everton, how big the Everton back four were. Trev, I'll go to you first on this one. And again, against Brentford, the back 6 or 7 players are huge.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we've lacked for years, defence, size in defence, and I don't think we lack that now. I honestly don't think the defence is a problem, Fergus. I mean, we've let in 2 goals in our last 2 games, and we've scored 1. That's where the problem is. We're not scoring enough goals at the moment, last couple of games. We're not breaking defences down. We shouldn't be giving away 1 goal a game and only taking 1 point out of 6 in our last 2 games. Our defence, that should tell me that we should have more points. And while we're talking about fouls, I mean, the lead up to their goal, when the free kick was given against Gabriel for a foul on Tommy, it's all over social media and the news today. Yeah, it's all over it. I mean, look, if if that's not a foul by the attacker, I don't know what is. I mean, he's not only just put his arms around him, he's locked his hands and grabbed him, So, no, I don't think we've got a problem with our defence. I'm happy with our defence. It's the goals up front that we're losing track of.
Yeah, to be honest, Ivan Toney in that still looks like he's trying to give a piggyback to Saliba. On Saliba, do you think he's been the same since the World Cup, Dan?
Yeah, I think he's been the same. I think he's been good, to be honest with you. I don't think he warrants the criticism that people have been giving him. Ivan Toney's a tough guy to play against, and he's shown that all season against the best centre backs in the Premier League. So I don't see why the treatment should be any different for Saliba. No one else is criticising the other centre backs he's played against. He's a tough opposition, but for me, no issues with Saliba or Gabriel.
Interesting point by Arnie in the chat there, Alex. We can write this 2 games off because City lost to Brentford and drew against Everton as well. So, in theory, if you want to, you can say we're 1 point better off.
I mean, you could look at it that way, but you could look at it as an opportunity to capitalize as well, which we didn't do. So that's quite unfortunate. But I just wanted to go quickly back to like Saliba and Gabriel because I think they've been really good, but I just think they were really matched physically this game, and I think it was quite worrying how easy it was for Brentford to like get to really big chances just by kicking the ball up to like Mbeumo and Toney, because they just seemed so dangerous. Like every time they'd play a direct pass to any of Toney or Mbeumo, and like Dale said in the comments, Saliba lost 10 out of 10 aerial duels against Toney. And I know, like what Dan said, he's a really good player and he's a tough attacker, but that was just like the first time this season that I saw both Gabriel and Saliba have so much trouble with an attacker. So hopefully they can handle Haaland this Wednesday.
I think we managed Haaland well enough at City. I know we lost in the FA Cup.
Yeah, we did.
We managed him very, very well. Yeah. So I'm actually more confident going into. I'm loath to say it, going into the City game than I was going possibly into the Everton game. Trevor, we brought on Trossard for Martinelli. It was a good move by Arteta. It was the right time. Martinelli just wasn't getting into the game, was he?
No, he wasn't. And Trossard coming on did seem to lift us. Not for the rest of the game, but he did lift us for the 5 or 10 minutes after he came on and he scored the goal. I can't move on unless I just disagree with some of the views that I must say that I think our issues are that we've not been making the scoring chances up front the last couple of games. Yeah, we've given away 2 goals in 2 games. That's 2 more than we want to give away with. But we've scored 1 goal in 2 games. We need to be making more chances. Even if we're not putting them away, we've not made chances, let alone not scored goals. And that's what we need to change. And you're moving us on to City, Fergus. I know that's coming, mate.
Not quite yet, but yeah, nearly there.
Yeah. Well, when we do move on to City, we'll talk about the fact that we're facing a completely different opposition. A completely different opposition.
Look, let's look at Trossard's goal and let's get into the topic of the VAR decision, and that's more or less the game done. Before we get into the Trossard goal, we talked about clean sheets, and we talked about that we've only had 2 clean sheets: one against Forest in a 5-0 win, and one against Newcastle in a 0-0 draw. Dan, does any of this blame lie at Martinelli? Because you'll see in the VAR, he flaps something dreadful, and we could see it from down our end. You'll see that later on in the VAR incident.
Do you mean Ramsdale?
Ramsdale, what did I say?
I said Martinelli.
Okay, yeah. Me get something wrong? That's unusual.
Well, I just wondered what you meant. But do you know what? Just a quick touching back on Gabriel and Saliba. Do you think, Trev, that people are trying to find a scapegoat at the minute? Because we haven't lost for quite a while. They're calling it a downturn in form. But they seem to just want to pick out every sort of nitty-gritty. But we are a team that's on the front foot most of the time, and we are going to get opened up at times.
Trev, that was to you. He didn't listen.
I was listening. I just had a message from one of the viewers raising a point with me. He's gone now, but of course we're going to get opened up, Dan. We play in the English Premier League, the best league in the world. You can have the best defenders on the planet, and you're going to get opened up. But I still say we've given away 2 goals in 2 games. That's too many, but the defence is not where our issues lie. I have every faith in all of the 6 people that can play across the back for us. But our top six choices. Put any 4 of them 6 in, and I'm not fed up with it. Actually, I'm not fed up with any part of our team, but we have got to work out what's going wrong up front. Last couple of games, we're not creating the chances.
Yep. Chance was created then by Saka for...
Saka trying to go around his man. Good delivery, must be! And it's Trossard who scores for Arsenal his first goal for the club, and it could be a priceless one.
Yes, great goal, great work from Saka. And we said we needed somebody new to come on and change the game, and it's Trossard scoring.
So talk us through that briefly, because we'll be here till 10 o'clock at this rate if we carry on talking about this game for so long. I'll let you go on this one, Alex, and then we'll move on to the VAR situation.
Stop it, Trev. No, it was a really well worked goal, and it's kind of what we've seen a couple of times throughout the season with Odegaard and Saka combining on the right hand side, and Saka getting free from his marker and putting in a cross, which he did quite a few times that game. But this time, the right back, Mads Roerslev, he was just watching the ball. He wasn't watching where Trossard was, and it was an easy tap-in for him. So, yeah, brilliant goal. And let's move on to the VAR.
Yeah, so it all started with the one that we talked about a minute ago. Saliba was adjudged to be climbing all over Ivan Toney. I don't think he had a chance to even get off his back. He was practically having children with him. It was unreal. And Ivan Toney has a record for doing that, a bit like Alan Shearer used to, and Harry Kane does. These big strikers, they're back into, but grabbing as well is just is another level. Let's look at this, and hopefully YouTube don't nick this off me.
Here's Toney unmarked. That's a dangerous ball in. Wissa heads it back, not very far. Helped on by Norgard. Pinnock's climbing in there. Oh, it's going to be a goal. Ivan Toney scored.
So Toney scored the goal. I don't know if you saw on there what I was talking about, Dan, about Martinelli, the way he's flapping a little bit. Do you want to talk about the possible goal, or do we just go for it?
Martinelli doesn't flap. He doesn't use his hands. Ramsdale. How many more times, man?
I'll do it for you then, Ferg. Yeah, to be fair, I do feel like Ramsdale was at fault a little bit as well. Can you not go down to number 4, please, Ferg?
It might be like that soon.
I do feel like Ramsdale was at fault. I don't see why he came out at that point. I felt like he could have stayed on his line and let the defence sort of deal with it there, because I don't think he was ever going to get anywhere near it. So, but I don't think I can really punish Ramsdale when you look at that video. Someone seems to have forgotten to draw some lines on there. So surely it wasn't VAR.
Let's look at that. So.
Well, there's obviously somebody's offside there, but the ball doesn't go to him. The ball goes to Toney at the back post, which is well onside. No guard there, maybe, that he's coming back from an offside position. No, I'm not sure. It's a goal.
But it's been given. So after that extensive check, Brentford are level, and it's that.
So that was that. And now we're going to go into talk about VAR. But before we talk about VAR, I thought it would be a good idea to contact the man in charge of the PGMOL, easy for me to say, in Howard Webb, and see what is the point of VAR.
VAR is to stop those situations that I used to face when I made a decision on here, got into the dressing room, looked at my phone and thought, oh my goodness, how have I missed that? That shouldn't happen now. The VAR's there as that safety net. But what I don't want is situations where, there's some situations that could split opinion 60-40, not only in the public, for you guys, for the players, the coaches, also for the officials. And one VAR in 1 week will recommend a review, and in the same week a different one won't. And I think that would create a situation where people lose faith in what it's for.
Trevor, have you lost faith in what it's for?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, absolutely. I've lost faith, Fergus, because that the VAR officials are doing exactly what I was doing on the weekend, watching the game on the telly, right? They've got their feet up with a beer, waiting for something to go wrong, right? And I knew when I watched it, and then I watched them replaying it, I said to my missus, they're looking at the wrong offside here. They're looking at the wrong offside. He's not played it through to the next part of the play, the last nod. And I was gobsmacked that they didn't even look at it, didn't line it up, didn't look at it. And I just thought to myself, am I missing? I couldn't believe that someone that's paid like 60, 70, 80 grand a year could miss what I'd clearly seen on the television. I knew that the last nod was offside. I knew it was. I looked at it. I said to my missus, that's offside. And I just can't believe that he's not run it through to that. I mean, we've watched Dermot Gallagher today. He was on Sky. They did a ref watch, an hour special ref watch on Sky Sports News this morning. And some of the excuses Dermot Gallagher come up with, they may be cringe. They actually turned this old man's stomach, Ferg. Boys, they turned my stomach listening. He was saying that it's human error, but he didn't say it's human error. He said it's just human error. There's no just about an error that might cost a team its first Premier League title, in nearly 20 years, He said we're going to give the bloke some retraining. Well, he's made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake previously. How much retraining does he get? And he's made basic errors. They've issued an apology. Oh, well, so what? So what about the apology? My last part of my rant, because you boys got to come in on this, right? It wasn't something that VAR hadn't been designed for that had shocked us. We thought, didn't know we had to watch for that. Didn't know he had to do that. It's the very basic job of VAR, right? To check for an offside. There's nothing more basic about it. There's nothing else you can do. You look at offsides, and if he's not played that through to the final play and checked that offside as well, then he wants instantly dismissing. And I just like to place here my thanks, Kevin Campbell, and Sue Smith, two great people of Arsenal were on the panel on Sky Sports News when Dermot Gallagher was talking, and they left him in no uncertain terms that they disagreed, and they're former professional footballers. They know better than all of us. And just to finish it off, we had the three mistakes, didn't we? If you take it to extremes, right? We had the three mistakes. We had Brighton Palace, we had Arsenal Brentford, and we had West Ham Chelsea. All three of those games finished 1-1. All three of those games finished 1-1. And they could have all finished different scores. I don't know. I'm not putting any more words to that. All I am saying is get rid of VAR. Bring it back when you've got it right, or bring it back when you've got the people that can use it right. But at the moment, and I'm talking as a football fan, not an Arsenal fan, a proper fan of football, you VAR people are ruining our national sport. You are taking away the enjoyment from our sport. We had a fantastic weekend of Premier League football, didn't we? We had some great games of Premier League football to watch this weekend. Great players, great performances, great scorers. And what are we all talking about? We're not talking about the football. We're talking about the VAR. Shocking. Sorry, boys. Ran over, I promise.
It's fine. Listen, Donna's been telling me that how much this has been bothering you. And to be honest, she said, at night she thinks she was thinking about other girls, but we know really you were thinking about Lee Mason forgetting to draw the lines on. Listen, quickly go over the VAR then with you, Capo. So there's the first one for Pinnock, where he's in front of Gabriel impeding him, and then there's the second one, which is the offside. This is with lines drawn onto it. it was because Lee Mason didn't have any crayons with him. The other ones that we've talked about was the West Ham, Souček saving the ball there, and the referee in that instance, speaking to a West Ham fan today, said that the reason he didn't give that one is because he was falling down and that was breaking his fall. But we haven't been, it's not the first time we've been victims of VAR. There was the Manchester United one. There was the Southampton one against Jesus where he's been crawled all over. And you got only very, very recently where the shirt was practically pulled off the back of Gabriel against Newcastle. Dan, I'll go to you first of all. Let's go through this VAR and what you think.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't like criticising people unnecessarily. And I think potentially the block and then, subjective decisions, okay, I may not agree, but I can put up with them. But I've said all along that the one thing with VAR that they seem to have got right was offside, because you're either on or you're off. You just don't forget to draw the lines. And if they've made that many mistakes over so many months, if I did that in my job, genuinely I would get sacked. And I don't want anyone to lose their job because, everyone's got a livelihood. And I would really hope that no one does it on purpose. But genuinely, that can't happen. And the only one thing I disagree with, I know how a lot of people feel about VAR. I wouldn't get rid of it. I think the concept is good. But the problem is the officials. The officials are awful. They are not good enough. Honestly, exactly that. The technology isn't the problem, as you said, it's the people using it. And they've got to get better officials in. I was near enough sitting there thinking, hopefully, maybe is it just the 3:00 games? Maybe it's because they've got more than one game at once and then they have to use different officials. But it isn't. Even the early game and the Chelsea game, and the people are just not good enough at doing their job. It's just,
Alex, one of the best tweets I've read on the topic. One tweet I wrote, which was similar to what Lyle said, which is VAR is not the issue because the fouls are getting picked up. The issue are the officials watching the pictures. But the best tweet I've read is from that guy beside me over there. And he said human error. He'd rather see human error happen on the pitch than happen in a wardrobe, was the word he says, where they've watched the pictures for 4, 5, 6 different angles and they're making a human error then. There is no excuse for the human error at that point, Alex.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, we can live with human errors from referees on the pitch. We can't live with human errors from referees in the VAR room. And I think the biggest problem of them all is it makes us fans question the integrity of the Premier League, because we're all sitting here wondering how the heck, like, what's going on? Like, everybody could see what was going on. Why was the guy who was on job being paid for it not able to see what was going on? So it just that's the biggest problem for me, that it makes us fans question the integrity of the sport. But I think there's like 2 solutions to it. I'd rather just completely get rid of it if they can't manage the system, or I'd like to see the thing we had at World Cup, this semi.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah. Like, why not? It's the biggest league in the world. Why not bring that in? Like, I can't believe why haven't they got it yet?
Especially for offsides. And that, because the likes like that, it's basically Hawkeye, wasn't it? That's what they used in the World Cup, an equivalent.
It's like Hawkeye, yeah. Because like Dan said, you're either on or you're off. So if we have technology which helps us to decide whether they're on or off, why not use it?
There's talk about active play and stuff like that as well. There was a comment in there about the flag not being raised. Well, they're told not to raise the flags until
I think that's fair enough. I wouldn't have been able to see it.
Don't lose his point, boys. Don't lose his point, boys. Because you've got that point there from Tim, right? And you've got that point there from Matt, right? Firstly, the linesman didn't raise his flag at all, right? Okay. So if we didn't have VAR, it's a goal, right? But
Trev, they're told not to raise the flag until VAR.
Fergus, he didn't raise his flag even after the play. He didn't raise his flag when the goal went in. If he thought it was offside, he'd raise his flag, right? Because the play's over. The goal's gone in, he raised his flag, and he didn't, right? Because Fergus, It was a really tight offside. The ball was bouncing around. And if we didn't have VAR, Ferg, and that goal was given, mate, I would have said, oh, Jesus, bloody linesman. But I would have made allowances in my head for the error of the linesman in the moment of the play. Yeah? But this VAR takes all that away, especially with offsides. There shouldn't be a single error with an offside, you know, or retraining or you know, no. If they're not ready now, they're never going to be ready. You see what I mean, Ferg?
No, I
the goal went in the line. Would have put his flag in the air, but he didn't at all. And I could accept it. I'd hate it. I'd want to kill the linesman. I'd want to kill the ref. But in your head, you're thinking, Jesus, that was tight. I can see why he didn't give it, you know. But
that's, as Alan said in the chat, probably very difficult to see. He's too close.
Absolutely.
To see of it. Dan, did you want to come up with a final point on the VAR? Because I want to go into a little bit more of the opportunity to compromise the game theory that we've talked about before.
Yeah, two really, really quick points. The other thing that really frustrates me is, and we did this at the World Cup, and we've got the technology in place, semi-automated offsides. Why, if it works, is it not already in? Because if they have that technology, it would have solved that solution. You know, that wouldn't have happened with semi-automated offsides. So if they've got it, why not use it? And the second thing is, there are going to be pundits and people like that idiot Gary Neville that's going to be loving it, saying the Arsenal are collapsing, the Arsenal are crumbling. We're not crumbling. We're not collapsing. We should have won that game, I believe, in the end. Just about. We talked about the other chances, but we should have won that game without that decision. And we would have been having a completely different outlook as fans. And as it is now, it's the perception is Arsenal are now not winning.
Exactly. Exactly, mate. It's Fergus, this is so important, mate. I'm sorry I keep buying in, but Dan's exactly right. We should have come out on that ground thinking we've been second best today, but we've scraped that. How did we win that game? We must be a good side to be able to nick a win against Brentford like that. That's what we should have been thinking. Dan's exactly right. And, I'm fuming, man. I'm going to give myself a heart attack in a minute.
Lee Mason didn't draw the lines, and it was human error, and there was an apology issued by the PGMLO, also BBC Sport. But they all done it. Even the Premier League updated the table, saying that Arsenal had played 21 games with 51 points plus an apology. So at the end of the season, when it comes to, it's tied completely. The apology will get us over the line and give us the league title. Mark Halsley said something which was damning, if true, but it's not our words. I've been in a situation when when I've seen an incident, I've been told to say I haven't seen it. To be fair, to the FA, it's not them. It comes from the PGMOL. It doesn't stop there. We've been told to give a certain amount of corners, our throw-ins, fouls, bookings. The Premier League is rife with spot fixing and bias towards certain clubs from the FA. Every referee in the Premier League could be in front of a court one day soon. That is Mark Halsley, Premier League referee, 1999 to 2013. Not our words. It's just something that we picked up off Twitter. Opportunity to compromise, Trev. Opportunity to compromise.
There's never been more, is there? And Mark Halsley is exactly right. When he said those words, Mike Riley was the head of PGMOL, I believe, and Mike Riley refereed the biggest travesty of justice I've ever seen when he refereed the game at Old Trafford and just gave us nothing all day. And that was really, for me, where the question marks started being asked about referees and decisions. And we're not making any accusations on this show, far from it, but we are looking at what is going on. We are looking at what is going on, especially now we've moved on to the VAR situation and we're starting to question why these things are still happening. I can't accept that it's all down to incompetency and human error and the like. I can't accept that. I'm making no accusations there, but I'm saying that I cannot. This weekend just gone, twice. Once the lines were forgotten to be drawn because they looked at the wrong play. And secondly, the line wasn't drawn because they put the line on the wrong player. Both on the same weekend. It's so strange. There's so many things not adding up for me in my head. And I'm not going to be the one that makes the accusations, but There's plenty on social media, and there's plenty of insinuations I had, from people that have been very high in the game, questioning how they're reaching these decisions. We find ourselves in a very strange situation. And if they've, as I said, and Dan's right, VAR works, right? VAR absolutely works. But for the moment, at this moment in time, with what we're all thinking, they need to bin it straight off, get rid of it. Bring it back, start of next season with the refs mic'd up so we can hear what they're talking about. Give us some openness. Let us hear what they're saying. Let us watch the process of the decision making. Don't just stick on the screen, offside check being carried out. Stick on the screen the chat that's going on, or put, we need more openness, because these thoughts ain't going to go away in the current situation. They're only going to get worse. God help them if there's a massive balls up tomorrow night, because you can imagine what's going on. And Dan's right. Alex is right. It's a cracking thing to do. VAR should work perfectly. And I can't make out in my head why it's not. I can't make a reasoning made why it's not. I won't accept incompetency. I won't accept human error. I won't accept liquor training. Won't accept it. So you build your thoughts off of that.
With regards to mic'd up, this is Peter Banks, the referee who was in charge of the game. He's got a microphone. He's got an earpiece. They all have. Just prior to COVID, I was invited to Highbury House into the boardroom. I was there with Chris Foy and somebody from the supporters liaison officer from the Premier League. We're discussing VAR and the potential changes that we're talking about VAR. This is when they were introducing changing the handball for the T-shirt line and so on. But they played us video footage of games with, in particular, Mike Dean quite a few times, and refereeing, I think it was Man United versus Arsenal or Arsenal-Tottenham and games like that. But you can hear the conversations going on all the time. Trevor, you're very much from the rugby stable. They've got, and cricket, they've got like the little earphones you can go in and just, I'm sure even now you could probably do it on the app from Arsenal if you wanted, and you could listen to what's going on. They don't have to put everything on, but, I don't see why they don't.
Rugby and football are two completely different games when it comes to a refereeing perspective. But let me tell you, I didn't play the game at a very top level, but I played to a pretty good standard. And I always used to call the referee sir, right? In rugby, the referee was sir. And if you put 1 foot out of place, you were penalised. If you put 2 foot out of place, you were penalised again and probably sent off. So we can't really compare. This micing them up so we can hear them, so there's openness, is what interests me the most. We don't have to hear the ref all through the game of football. Well, we probably couldn't, because the language would be horrendous, wouldn't it? Everyone under the age of 14 would have to switch their tellies off,
But didn't they do it many years ago? And it was Man United Arsenal and Tony Adams, and the F-bomb and the C-bomb and everything was dropped everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
They forgot to tell the Arsenal players that was happening before that game in defence of Tony Adams. The referee was mic'd up and nobody told the Arsenal players. But there should be a switch in VAR. Right, we're going to have a VAR review, switch on. Now all the speak is open and public. Now all the talk is open and public, Switch it off, VAR done, switch it off again, back to privacy, Boys, I need to apologise to you three here. Even Fergus, I'm apologising to Fergus. That don't happen very often. This is something that is really close to this old man's heart. So I'm sorry I've nicked the airtime and waffled on. And I'm going to shut up now and let you boys carry on.
I think you said it spot on, to be honest. I don't think there's really much more to add, because I think you've hit the nail on the head. So I think it's not far different from how everyone else is feeling. And it just, the thing that, again, that gets me is 2 points in that game could so easily decide a title race. And how gutted would we be if that's the end result,
Final thing, as we leave the Brentford game, before the match, the Ashburton Army, who you can only hear their drum and throughout most of the game, Arsenal have class and tradition, something oil money can't buy. That seemed to rile the Manchester City fans, and they quickly, how they got this banner together in like literally 24 hours, I don't know. Panic in the streets of North London. We have a game against City tomorrow night at 7:30. No, not tomorrow night. Wednesday night at 7:30. and it's probably the biggest game at the Emirates this season. And it's that big that even Trevor is going to be in attendance. Are you in the box with the directors? Are you up with Josh and Silent Stan?
I'm not associating with you boys downstairs. It's not my level these days, I'm afraid. Not my
We
level.
have Anthony Taylor in charge. He's from Manchester. Look at that. Look at that map of where all the ones with the heads on there are where all the elite referees are from. And the majority of them are from the northeast. There's a couple in Leicester, a couple in Birmingham,
Northwest.
3 in Bristol. And there's some in the northeast as well. The majority in the northwest, yeah, correct. Alex, whoever wants to come back on this, are there no good referees in the south of England?
It is quite weird that all of them are from up north. But yeah, it's just annoying that we're talking about all this stuff like referees and like you just don't want to sit here talk about it. You'd rather talk about the Arsenal and the stuff that we love. But here we are again, like talking about referees and the integrity of the sport. Like we need transparency with the referees. I think there will be a good implementation, like Trev said, with mic'd up.
So with the City game, Haaland didn't play the second half against Villa. Anything in the Danish press to say that he's injured and broke a leg?
No, he's going to be playing. He was training today, so he'll definitely be playing, unfortunately.
Okay. The gap's down to 3 points, Dan. It's mega, isn't it? Do you change the formation? Do you try and shoehorn Zinni and Tierney in? Do you swap one for the other? What changes would you make, if any?
I'd make the crowd louder. It's the only thing I'd change.
I think that will happen. I think
it needs to. It really needs to, because as fans, we've got one job, and that's get behind the team. And this is the biggest game where they really need us, and that means whether they're winning, whether they're losing, whether they're drawing, whether VAR draws lines or don't draw lines, we need fans losing their voices by the time that game finishes.
Conscious that some of the numbers are dropping off because the football's just started, so people are going to go. Trev, do you change anything do you change any of the lineup? I know you talked about Eddie and Martinelli.
Yeah, so I would honestly give Eddie a rest, and I'd play either Martinelli through the middle or even Trossard through the middle, because Trossard's got a history of scoring goals. So I'd give Eddie a rest. I'd play Trossard. I'm not too worried about Haaland, because I think that Arteta will have lined our defence up. We've seen it recently. Stick tight to Haaland and he spits his dummy. He loses his focus. So hopefully we can do that. I can't see us losing the game, Fergus. Cannot see us losing the game on Wednesday night.
Answer to Arnie. Arnie, myself and Capo have been at the other 21 games. So I think we've done all right in bringing points. But yeah, hopefully having the big man there will help us. Alex, would you change anything? And once you've said that, I want your score prediction.
Yeah, like I don't know if I would change anything. I would like to see Trossard play more minutes against City on Wednesday, but I'd understand completely if he's starting with Eddie again, because he has scored quite a few goals after the World Cup break. But I agree with Trev. I can't see us losing, and a draw would be a massive result against City. But my prediction is a 2-1 to the Arsenal.
Sorry, you went 2-1 to the Arsenal, did you?
Yes.
Yeah. Capo?
I am also thinking 2-1. I do think we were very unlucky when we played at home to them last year. We could have quite easily got a result. I think absolutely. When we played up there earlier, a couple of weeks ago, with a much changed side, I thought we did quite well at times. And I think and I go back to this point, the crowd behind them, loud and proud, we will take the points home. And Trev can be the cherry on the icing on the cake to help us bring the 3 points home.
I'll be your cherry any day, Danny boy.
Looks like you're popping something tomorrow.
Must remember moving on. Fergus, listen.
It must have been that tweet about nudes.
Fergus, listen. Just before you say your bit, I'm like these boys. I can't see us losing tomorrow night. Wednesday night. But I can't move on from it. The score will be whatever VAR wants it to be. It'll leave us alone and let us watch a game of football and see a result, or it'll stick its unwanted nose in again and influence the result. Let's hope it's the first. Let's hope we see a great game of football, not influenced other than by players on the field. I'm not going to say we're going to win. I'm not sure, but I can't see us losing the game, Ferg. Can't see us losing.
Alan in the chat has gone for 3-1. Trev, what have you gone for score-wise? Are you going to pick a score?
I'd be happy. I'd be happy with 1-1.
To be honest,
1-1.
A draw isn't a bad result. We just cannot lose the game. 1-1 springs to my head. 2-2 springs to my head, but I'm gonna go with heart rather than head, and I'm gonna go 3-1 Arsenal.
Go on, my son. I'll
confident.
Take that all day long.
There we go. And no voice on Thursday, and probably a little bit of a headache.
Ferg, I'll let you know when I'm in London, right? Boy, I'll let you know when I'm in London, boys. We're meeting up. I want a beer. I want to give you all big hugs and kisses and even play with Dan's cherry.
It's a ginger one, apparently. A question that has been sitting around for a little while. There's a guy in France. He's an Arsenal player, and he's scoring more goals than Mbappe. He's called Balogun, an American-born, New York-born footballer who's played for Arsenal. He's been away at Borough on loan. He has had a couple of opportunities, and myself and Trev have had the opportunity to see him not really perform fantastically against Brentford that time when you walked out, Trev. I think Alex has got a question for you.
I want to ask, is he not special, Trev?
Well, look, he certainly looks special at the moment. By the way, you've dropped me right in here because you never told me about this question. He certainly looks special at the moment, Alex, right? But as Fergus just said, when we saw him given a chance at the start of last season, it was bad. It was like men v boys, and he was the boy, trust me. So when he went out on loan, I thought, yeah, this is a great move because he's obviously got some talent. And to my honest answer is that Arteta has shown already that he's a great judge of when players should and when shouldn't play. So when Arteta brings him back, I will believe he's ready. Until then, let him keep scoring them goals and building his confidence, mate. I have faith in our manager, mate.
Dan, French League's nothing really to talk about. Pepe, Lacazette, scoring for fun out there. Come to the Premier League, and Pepe in particular, was hot and cold. Lacazette ran out of steam.
Yeah, I agree. I think what it has proven, though, is that maybe he's deserved and earned his chance to be in and around the squad. And then when he gets his chance in the squad for maybe cup games or, Europa League games, does he take his chance then? Because that's what other players have done. They've come into those games, they've taken their chance, and they've got into the first team. So, look, fair play to him. He's scoring goals for fun at the minute. He's outscoring some brilliant players in the league. But can you do it regularly in the Prem? That's an absolute, different animal. But let's hope he does, because young lads that come through, it's what we want to see at the club.
Yeah,
Alex, go on. Has he answered your question?
Yeah, he has. But I think the problem is if he finishes as the top scorer in the French league, he's not going to be sitting around hoping for a start in the cup games. He's going to be either wanting a promise from Arteta that he's going to be playing more regularly, or he's going to get a big move to another big club.
Then he hasn't got what it takes to play for the Arsenal, and he can go with Sanchez, Guendouzi, and the rest of the lot of them. If he wants to play for the Arsenal, we can take his chance.
Well, we'll see. We'll see when summer comes.
Yeah,
we will. Guys,
all right.
Yeah, he did, and it's the right amount of loans that you need. Look, listen, we've overran a little bit. We had a huge amount to get in. I don't think we've done too bad, considering I thought we could have been here till 10. We're just done over the hour mark. If you like what we do, like Alan said, it's a great podcast. Thank you very much, Alan, in the chat and some of the others. If you like what we do on YouTube, hit the subscribe and the like button. We don't do this for fun. We just do this. Oh, sorry, we do this for fun. We don't do this to be famous or anything like that. We just chat and we just have a conversation like we're down the pub, and that is the concept behind it.
Are you in a rush, Ferg? I was going to go back and talk about Saliba and Gabriel again.
You can do, but I need a piss.
Play the music. Play the music.
Sing along if you know. As I walk these streets alone, through this borough I call home, upon the barren fields of ivory, beneath the stadiums of stone, through the turnstiles of the angel, see the homeless on the green, from the Cali to the cross, and every shithole in between. Past the church, the mosque crack then, and the offie on the corner, see the brasses from the brothel, that pretends to be a stormer. Watch the bedlam in the bookies, see the winners and the losers, seeking solace from their sorrow, in the local battle cruisers, through the madness in the market, where the faces turn to greet ya. Hello governor, how's your mother? You're outside me like a geezer, double pie of mash and liquor, a double rose in the up chat, or watch retired gangsters bicker, every day an office chat. The little fuckers causing trouble, for the causes make you smile. You meet your muckers for a couple, forget your troubles for a while. From the full nil to the hemi, all the faces are the same. Cause the manner might be changing, but the people still remain. Ready?
Listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons and Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too.